Technically, it's still the middle of winter. Last week for me was cold and rainy and generally dreary. But this week, it's starting to warm up. The sun is peeking out just a little bit. I feel like time is passing, winter is coming to a close, and spring is just around the corner. So whether you're still battling the cold winter blues or you're itching for the warm weather in the spring, I feel like the end of February and early March is a good time to acknowledge and say thank you to our everyday winter essentials. And when I talk about winter essentials, I don't mean it in a way where you should go out right now, right this second, to go buy all of these things. I'm more so thinking about it as a way to practice gratitude and say thank you to the items and the routines that have served us well this season. So as I share my winter essentials with you today, some of them might seem a little bit obvious, but I feel like that's the point of an everyday essential. They're essential because they exist so seamlessly in our everyday lives that sometimes we forget that they even exist. And they're essentials because they become part of our everyday routines. So I've broken down my winter essentials into the 5 routines that have gotten me through this past winter. So the first routine is obviously journaling. And in the winter, I've been journaling kind of first thing in the morning when I wake up as a way to just ease into the day and mostly just brain dump anything in my mind before I start my day. For long form journaling, I actually use a Rhodia web notebook. So this is the A5 size soft cover in this green color. And I think this is maybe my 3rd or 4th of these web notebooks. I usually try to get a different color every time I get a new one. And this is where I do my long form journaling. And I mentioned in a previous video that I don't like to journal in the traveler's notebook because I just find it really uncomfortable for writing long form. So I still like to have a regular, bound A5 notebook for long form journaling. And then in terms of pens, I think the real superstar pen for my long form journaling in the winter has been this one. So this is the TWsbi Eco fountain pen. And I forgot what the name of the ink is, but it's a really fun green, which I thought was really festive around the holidays. I'll leave the name of the ink somewhere here or down below. But I probably filled this maybe in December, and it's currently the end of February, and there's still a lot of life in there. So this has been really nice for long form journaling, and I like that I don't have to refill the pen too often. So those have been my everyday essentials for my long form journaling routine. The next routine that is definitely a winter essential, an everyday essential, but especially in the winter, is making a hot drink first thing in the morning. Every day, I love an English breakfast tea. Currently, I'm back on the PG tips, but I've also been enjoying a decaf coffee in the afternoon. And in order to make a tea or a coffee, the real essential is my electric water boiler. My water boiler is definitely my most used kitchen appliance and maybe one of my most used things in life in general because we don't like ice here. Hot drink essential is definitely my water boiler. Second essential is more of a practice and not really an item. So essential number 2 for my hot drinks routine is making chai. I didn't really care for a chai most of my life until my mother-in-law made me chai. And I finally learned how to make it. I'll try to pop my general recipe up on the screen, but it's basically 2 cardamom pods, some black peppercorns crushed up in a mortar and pestle, a knob of ginger that I just slice up. I don't even care to peel it. Pop that into 2 cups of boiling water and also just like a scoop of loose leaf black tea. I let that boil a little bit and then I add a cup of milk. I prefer lactose-free milk, and you just let that boil up twice and then strain it and drink it. And it's the most delicious and warming drink, especially in the wintertime. My third routine that I would like to talk about, and its associated winter essentials, is reading. So obviously reading every day, but specifically in the winter, I found that reading a classic book has been really enjoyable. So I started reading Jane Eyre right at the start of the year, and I actually just finished it last week. And in a previous video, I mentioned that I was trying to read a physical paperback book, but I realized I'm an e-reader gal, so I've got my kobo with me all the time. I'll say that I rarely, if ever, read a classic book, but something about this past winter season just felt so cozy, and reading Jane Eyre specifically was like having a nice companion during the winter season. But I think because I read seasonally, for example, the setting of the beginning of this book is like a stormy, rainy night. And I also read Jane Eyre on a stormy, rainy night. So it's just fun to remember books in the season that you read them and really use the book to remember that part of your life. So winter essential number one, obviously a book. But bonus content, I wanted to give a little sneak preview of this setup. So I did not buy this, but I was very lucky and someone in my life did not want this passport-sized traveler's notebook anymore and all its associated contents. And inside, I've been testing out reading on this little thing. So this is a little tiny e-reader that fits into this passport-sized traveler's notebook. But let me know if you want more details about this and I can share this little pocket-sized reading setup that I've been trying out. But for comparison, there's my normal e-reader. And that's the little one. So I don't want to call this a winter essential because I didn't use this for the entire season, but I did read some of Jane Eyre on this, especially when I was on the go, which was really nice. But yes, let me know if you want to see more details about this pocket-sized reading setup that I've been trying out. And then last for this reading category, a very random essential for my everyday reading routine have been orb-shaped lamps, such as this one in the corner here. I have this orb lantern here, but I also have another orb lamp in the living room. And there's just something about these glowing spherical globes that makes me so happy in the winter, probably because they're like having the sun inside your home. But definitely when I'm reading, I can actually adjust the color temperature of this one and dim it down a little bit, winding down with the nice glow of my orb lamps. And reading at night has been a very enjoyable winter routine for me. So thank you, orb lamps, for keeping me happy during the winter. So those were my reading winter essentials, my books and my lamps. So my next essential winter routine is definitely my knitting. And I've been keeping my current knitting project just in a bag, sitting by my couch so that whenever I feel the need or I have some free time, I can just pick it up and knit from where I left off. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I've been knitting this cardigan, I think since October. So we're reaching month 5, but that is my general speed of knitting. But let me show you my current progress. So this is the cardigan so far. I finished the body, I finished one sleeve, but there's just something so cozy about knitting in the winter, especially a big wool sweater like this one. At a certain point, when the sweater gets big enough, it serves as a partial blanket as well to keep you cozy on the couch. So a knitting project like this is definitely an everyday winter essential for me. And when I'm feeling like making my knitting session just that more special, I will also light a candle. So I'm very picky about smells, and lighting a candle during the winter for me, it doesn't have to be a seasonal scent. I don't really care as long as it's a scent that I like. And I'm going through this one. I really like this brand of candles. I think they burn nicely and they burn very evenly, which is one of my pet peeves when the candle tunnels. So I like when they burn very, very flat like that. But this company, I think, has a sale once or twice a year. And that's when I'll just stock up on a couple of these and burn them as I go through the year. I'm not always burning a candle. It's really just to set the mood, especially in the winter when I'm knitting. So everyday winter essentials for my knitting routine is obviously knitting a big wool sweater and knitting next to a candle. And last but not least are my everyday winter skincare essentials. There's something about the cold, the dry, the heaters running in the winter where my skin decides to just freak out. So I need winter-specific skincare essentials that save me from the pain that is dry winter skin. So first is obviously Vaseline. And Vaseline every day, 365 days a year, but specifically in the winter, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little tub of Vaseline that I keep on my bedside table. But when I'm out and about and on the go, I like to use the Vaseline that's in this lip therapy. So I like having it in this tube when I'm on the go, so you're not sticking your nasty fingers into a tub of Vaseline when you're out and about. So Vaseline is winter skincare essential number 1. Essential number 2 to adding life back into my dry winter skin has been a thicker moisturizer balm. And this is the first time I've tried this one from Avene. I've also tried the La Roche-Posay Cicaplase balm something. And I used that for quite a number of years, but I wanted to try something new this year, hence the little trial size. And I promise I have been using this quite religiously during the winter, even though it doesn't look like it. But a little goes a long way. This winter, I've had like a little dry spot around my eyelids. So I'll just dab a little bit of this on when that's feeling particularly dry, and it really just heals it overnight. So I'm quite impressed with this particular moisturizer, but any moisturizer that is extra rich for the winter, I find helpful. And if I'm really feeling the need for it, I will do a little dab of this on a dry spot on my skin and then seal it on with a little more Vaseline. So that is winter skincare essential number 2. And then last for winter skincare essentials is a hand cream. Hand cream is something that I forget about most of the year until winter hits and all of a sudden my hands are like sandpaper. So I picked up this hand cream just when I was doing my groceries, and I'm quite sensitive to smells, but I found this one just smells mostly clean, fresh, and maybe a little powdery. But this one has been really good. It was quite affordable. I don't have a favorite hand cream per se, but this is the one I've been using this year, and I really like it, and I really like the metal tube that it comes in. So those are my everyday winter skincare essentials. So those are all my everyday winter essentials. I've made a real mess around me with all my favorites from the season, but it does feel good to take the time to reflect and say thank you to the items and the routines that have served me well this winter season. And when I started this video, I thought it would feel a little silly to say thank you to items that I have in my life, but I feel like saying thank you to these items, especially near the end of a season, has been a nice way to remember all the things that I enjoyed this winter. And I also think that living seasonally and having things around you that are season specific really help you to settle into the season and actually enjoy it instead of just waiting for spring or summer to roll around. So thank you for letting me share my everyday winter essentials. I would love to know what your winter essentials are, if you had any that were similar to mine or ones that were completely different. So I would love to know. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!